Hello, and be welcome to the world of darkness. Long ago was it that the sin of Cain spawned the cursed horror that stalks the street at night in search of living blood. The Kindred have long been a secret influence through all ages of human history, plotting against one another in a never-ending jihad. Their immortal progeny are among us to this day, hidden from the eyes of humanity by an elaborate masquerade. No sooner do you open your eyes, rising for the evening with a vampire's freshness, there is no lethargy or tiredness, no blinking or soreness. You awake as though you had just closed your eyes for seconds. You find already that there is a tapping, a light knock at the door, followed by the sounds of your maid calling to you. Miss Thorne? Miss Thorne?
Yes, what is it?
There is a young man waiting for you down in the sitting room. I've already seen him to tea and some of the biscuits we had. She hesitates briefly.
As she's speaking, Rebecca's kind of getting ready and getting out of bed as she says, what does this young man look like?
He is a Mr. Arthur Thorne, miss. Your nephew.
Ah. See to that he's all right, and I'll be down in a moment.
Of course, Lady Thorne. She quickly excuses herself from the presence of the door. You can hear her walking away.
Rebecca gets dressed so that she looks presentable, and then goes downstairs to join Arthur.
Is she employing the blush of life?
Oh, yeah.
You find him in the sitting room. He's the spitting image of your brother in his youth. And is sat on one of the couches, a half-drunk cup of tea in front of him, a plate of some biscuits and a half-eaten sandwich as well. The maid is smiling, looking down at him, her hands folded over her midsection as they speak. The moment you come into the room, Edna bows her head and steps back out of the room as Arthur stands up. Aunt Rebecca, how does the evening find you? I wasn't expecting you to be in bed so soon.
Rebecca approaches Arthur, arms wide in greeting, and as she nears him, putting a hand on his shoulder, and she says, "So good to see you, but I do wish you had told me before that you were coming."
He quickly closes the distance, putting his arms around Rebecca, and after a moment, pulling back, saying, "Yes, I know, I apologize for the apartment. It was a spontaneous thing. I am in need of someone to talk to, and I thought you might be the most sympathetic."
Of course, let's sit down.
Should we sit closer to the fire? You're a bit cold.
She kind of waves her hand away, just like, "Oh, no, that's quite all right. I think I've gotten used to the big house and coldness seeping into my skin. It's all right. Sit down. Tell me, what is it that brings you here?"
Sitting down, he puts his hands on his knees and begins to open his mouth to speak before silencing himself immediately. Seems to fiddle with his pant leg before pulling at the fabric a little and gesturing with a finger to the archway towards the front door. "Auntie, I was told that you had a visitor, a regular one. Some gentleman caller?
Rebecca gives a slight raised eyebrow. She says, "And who has told you that?"
The gentleman you have working for you. He mentioned it in passing. I don't think Mr. Alana meant anything by it, but I was slightly worried. I hadn't heard that you were meeting any gentlemen alone in your home.
I do occasionally entertain company.
Well, I hope they're good company then. Otherwise, I might have to have a word with him. Or grandfather.
You've no need to worry about me.
That's nonsense. Oh, my aunt. And my father's sister. Why wouldn't I worry? I hope he's a respectable man. A gentleman. Otherwise, I'll have to have harsh words with him.
It's very good of you. You're growing up to be a good young man.
I certainly try. Not that I have anyone to really compare myself to.
You have your grandfather.
Oh, grandfather is... I love grandfather, but you know how he can be. After a few moments of polite conversation, everything comes back to the Empire. And I'm bored of the Empire and conversation about it.
Yes, Edmund did need to get it from somewhere.
I mean, I'm as proud as any other Londoner or servant of the Queen, just... He waves a hand.
How have your studies been going?
Well enough, I suppose. I admit I find them to be dreadfully dull.
And what do you find more enrapturing?
Well, conversation, of course. Conversation, horse riding, hunting. Anything that isn't being in some stuffy room with a lecturer ranting on. I swear, one of my lecturers, the way he talks, I swear he's trying to put us all to sleep. I find myself with my eyes growing heavy, Aunt Rebecca. It's dreadful. And then he wants me to answer questions as though I could hear him. You'd swear the man was singing a lullaby.
A good lecturer should be one with passion for what he speaks about and able to infuse that passion into the students.
Oh, he has passion plenty. I just don't have passion for it. I don't like learning in that way. It's so dull. I learn more from grandfather in conversation than I learn from my lecturers. At least more of it sticks. It just feels as though the moment they start opening their mouths, a fog comes over my mind like it was the city of London. That's in part why I'm here, I suppose. You see, I've made some friends while attending. One who's completely disinterested in the university, but he's a good sword. I've gone hunting with him a few times, and the stories he tells are always very amusing. And I've also met a lady that I feel father would approve of. I know grandfather wouldn't.
Out of character, what was that last bit?
He knows grandfather wouldn't approve of her. The first thought probably going through your mind, oh no, you met a Scotswoman, didn't you?
A woman?
You see a sudden, almost illumination take over his expression. His eyes practically sparkle as though he's picturing her already in his mind. His whole posture changes to an all-around more energetic disposition. Yes, he puts a hand over his lower lip. Her name is Emily.
Well, do go on. Don't stop there.
After a moment, he seems to pluck up the courage to continue speaking. She is the strangest woman I've ever met. She is, in every way, she is like the wild roses, which are her favorite flower. So full of passion and beauty, but painful to the touch. But it is a pleasurable pain almost. For instance, we went to this dreadful little Jewish theater to watch a performance, and she loved it. She loved how horribly bad it was, saying that it was so bad that it was amusing. And I said, if that's the case, then we should go to the East End. I said something funny. She is exuberant at all times, and she is never subdued. She's nothing like English women.
If she's not an English woman, where is she from?
She is from America. New York.
I see.
Pushing himself off the couch, he waves a hand at you. Oh, not that tone, Aunt Rebecca. I figured you would be the one who would be sympathetic and not judge her for merely being from another country. Americans are plenty civilized.
I wouldn't say civilized.
And I would disagree. Could uncivilized people create motor cars?
Oh, well, there's no doubting that they're inventive.
What is the problem with that?
And this is the reason that you assumed grandfather would not approve.
Aunt Rebecca, he's your father. You know how he is. I am frankly surprised he has allowed you to live on your own. Much less father being so caught up in work all the time.
Yes. How long have you known this woman?
For about a year. And she enchants me every time we meet. Every recital we attend, every book she reads. I have never seen a woman so enthusiastic over a dish as simple as steak and roasted potatoes.
You are certainly a thorn, and more like your father by the day. All of us hopeless romantics.
Are we speaking of the same man? I half expect if he were to know of my fancy for Emily, he would appear just so long enough as to give me an earful and then a wag of his finger. And then he would be off again, much like the London fog. Gone but never forgotten. I wanted to ask his permission of something. Something more than Emily, though not as important.
She rolls her hand for him to continue.
A good friend, an Englishman, if you must know. He plans to join Her Majesty's Navy. I support it completely, naturally. I just encouraged him to finish what it is he has here before going out to fight for Queen and country. A friend, if you must know, yes, he is an American and a Texan, suggested that we go for a hunt. And I need Father's leave to go for a hunt. He suggested to hunt game in Africa.
You wish to go to Africa?
Only for a couple of months, just long enough to bag something suitable to bring back home. I'm sure Grandfather wouldn't mind. I went hunting with him just the other day. And it would look rather fetching to have a stuffed African beast in the living room.
When do you plan to go on this proposed trip?
I would hope in a couple of months, maybe. But also a part of me is worried. I want to tell Father about Emily. And I want him to accept that I would very much like to be with this woman. And perhaps one day be wed. But I feel as though if I ask him for one thing and then another, he may deny me. And then there's merely the prospect of speaking. I know I shouldn't feel this way, but I think I would rather face down the beasts of Africa than speak to Father.
It saddens me to say that you don't know your father as well as you might think, and that's no fault of your own. If you come back around the same time tomorrow evening, I'll make sure your father is here so that you can speak to him.
He rubs at the back of his neck. I feel as though I am about to meet Queen Victoria, and the headsman will be standing behind me.
There is no need to dread it, sir.
But dread it I do. I wish I had something that, if I had just one chance to impress Father, or to show him the kind of man I am, or the man I could be, then I would feel more confident. As it stands, I feel as though I am the gazelle trying to approach the crocodile-infested waters. Do you think it would be better if I maybe spoke to him after the trip to Africa? If I come back with some lion's pelt or something, maybe then he would be more impressed by the kind of man his son is and be more willing to acquiesce to a request. Just, if nothing else, if he could give me this, I could be happy. It's all I want. I will do whatever else he tells me to do for the rest of my life. Just accept that.
Your father is quite preoccupied with his sense of duty, though I suppose if you were to get your grandfather's blessing and then after your trip, how long, by the way, do you think your trip would last?
Maybe a month, or perhaps 2 even. Just long enough to go there by ship and back. The hunt would be a week.
She nods, and kind of looks at him out of the corner of her eye and says, "And this isn't just to put off a conversation with your father now, is it?"
No, it's nothing like that. Though I admit, it's a benefit. He pauses to look at you.
She shakes her head.
With a big smile, he says, I am excited by the idea of doing this, going on this hunt. My friend, the American I told you about, who suggested the idea, the way he talks about Texas and the untamed American West, it's very exciting. I think it would be quite nice to visit such a place.
You don't just want to hear about it, but you want to have a taste of the exposure for yourself.
He rubs the back of his neck as though bashful. A young man with adventure in his heart and death in his hand.
Rebecca leans back into the seat, kind of gesturing almost lazily towards him, saying, I perfectly understand.
If I may, Aunt Rebecca, that worries me. Especially if it seems that your adventure has been with some strange fellow that I haven't the devil any idea of, only that by his description, I don't think he has good intentions. I should seriously like to meet this man. He adjusts what seems to be a knife under his vest. Ah, yes. He wants to try to intimidate the 200-year-old Toreador.
Oh dear, what is
You can see it now, him with the same attempted tone of your father interrogating Charnock as to his intentions. You can't think of anything going more horribly wrong.
She waves her hand, saying, Thank you, but that is quite all right. This gentleman has treated me with every respect.
Yes, well, he had best. Otherwise, I do have a friend familiar with the East End. Though it's dreadful whenever I have to go get him from there.
Sounds like a truly terrifying man.
Terrifying is the places he drags me to whenever I have to find him.
Oh, don't tell me you've been wondering about the East End.
Not often, and lately entirely avoided. The other day I had a dreadful experience that has brought back old.
What happened?
Charisma and expression. He crosses his arms for a moment, somewhat defensively, before saying, It was just that I felt uneasy, as though someone were watching. It was a familiar sensation as to when I was a young lad. It's nothing to worry about, just nonsense.
Has this been a more recent sensation?
Just something that happened offhand. It's nothing to dwell on. I've already mostly put it out of my mind. It just left a bit of poor taste in my mouth. It's this Ripper business, without doubt, getting to me. It's why I wish to avoid the East End, but it is why I have been keeping a knife on. The sheath given to me by my American friend. He does have a taste for weapons of all sorts. I suppose that's quite common among Americans. They all seem to brandish a dozen weapons as though it's completely ordinary. I wouldn't be surprised to see an American walking down the streets of London with a rifle the same way that a Londoner walks down the street with a cane. Fanciful to see.
And you call them civilized?
A civilization of a different kind. Much like the Aztecs were different to the Spaniards.
I suppose that is one way you can see it.
It's not the most polite way, I confess, but it is amusing.
But don't think I don't see what you're doing. If there is something bothering you, I would like to know you are my brother's son.
He seems to take a slight step back, his eyes averting yours. Go ahead and charisma and expression. He doesn't look at you, but he does seem to open up a little. He fiddles with the buttons on the front of his vest. I had bad dreams as a boy. It was shortly after Mother's passing. I would dream that she came to visit late in the night. At one point I dreamt that she crawled out from under my bed and climbed into bed with me, holding me, speaking softly. And there was a dreadful cold to her touch. He shudders, Some nights I dreamt that I could just see her face peering at me through the darkness. It was the same kind of feeling I had in the East End. It's silliness, nothing. I just wonder if perhaps one day I might end up in a sanitarium such as she did. If maybe there isn't something wrong, or if I'm not the reason she's dead. She was fine before, pregnant with me.
Rebecca, where is he right now?
Stood a few feet away from you, where you are on the couch, having since gotten up, considering his antsy disposition.
Rebecca goes over to put a hand on his shoulder, squeezing his shoulders comfortingly as she says, I know things haven't always been the easiest for you. But one day when you grow up, you'll see that you're a better man for it, withdrawing hardships. And one day you will be the head of this family.
In true British fashion, he puts on a stiff upper lip and nods. A sudden knocking comes at the door. Edna is already on the way towards it. And Arthur, being who he is listening keenly, his eyes suddenly narrowed. But once he hears that it's a father, oh, well, problem. That's perfectly acceptable. And that's where the scene will conclude, as he'll quickly take that time to excuse himself, making sure to shake the good father's hand. And now I'm going to refill my beverage. Be right back. As you rush out of the church, you catch Charnock just as he is climbing into the back of his carriage. At your swift approach, the man holding open the door to the carriage steps once towards you, his hand still holding open the door, as he reaches under it, pulling out just enough for you to see a revolver.
I will slow down my approach and wait patiently, waving a handkerchief.
The man holding the gun and door, quiet for a moment before he asks, You have business, father? It's when Charnock leans his head out of the carriage to look at you, his face no longer having that big white smile. Now he just has this arched eyebrow. The rest of his face completely slack in its expression.
I look around, making sure that no one is watching us, other than the carriage driver.
Most of the parishioners had left already. There is one or two people you can see further ahead on the more active roads walking, but not within easy earshot unless they were to deliberately stop, turn, maybe even come down the road a little more to hear. And even then, humans won't hear much at a distance.
I say in a calm but quiet voice, having thought about your proposal, I must make a alteration, if that is acceptable.
The carriage creaks a little. You can see Charnock move, his hands bracing on either side of the doors. He lowers the first one and then the other foot climbing out. He reaches back in to clasp his cane and walks towards, striking it on the stone, approaching. Stopping some 3 feet ahead of you, his cane clasped in his hand, butt resting on the stone. the gaslight of the nearby lantern illuminating his back. He waits patient.
I care much for Mr. and Miss Thorne, and the idea of going behind their back, at least when it comes to being changed, does not sit well with me.
Did I say it would be me embracing you?
I shook my head. I did not expect it.
I guaranteed that you would receive embrace. And as you might happen to know, I am quite close to Miss Thorne, and I am acquainted with Edmund.
I have a feeling that I will get there on my own. But there is another matter that perhaps you could handle in its place, or someone you know.
Pulling the left hand off of the cane, he, with the right, pops it up into the air, catching it, and resting the head of it on your shoulder. Hurry up and tell me what this is about. I'm starting to feel peckish again.
Of course. As I was in the mausoleums in the Tower of London, I stumbled upon a creature, a bird, if you will, massive, large. It killed two of my acquaintances who were helping me with retrieving Miss Thorne's item. I fear it won't be long before it catches up with myself. Whether I be with Miss Thorne, I am trying to avoid. Though,
What's an alertness? You can see Charnock's face immediately becomes rigid like stone. The way he's looking at you is no longer in any resemblance human. Instead, it looks like you're staring into the eyes of a rabid wolf about to rip out your throat, and you can see his shoulders square, his left hand beginning to move.
Quickly rushing to finish what I was about to say. Actually, better yet, I think I'll quiet down for a moment until told to.
He doesn't stop his motion. Instead, he snatches you by the throat and with a frightening ease lifts you off your feet so you are suspended in the air. The iron grip he has on you begins to turn your face a shade of light blue as you struggle to breathe. I thought I asked you if she was in any danger over that nonsense.
She isn't.
Your words seem to say otherwise. He drops you from his grip.
I'm particularly avoiding her presence at the moment, as to avoid drawing it upon her.
He
Though
snaps
I was...
the butt of his cane on the ground. Unacceptable. She has need of your services for whatever reason, I'm not sure. This creature, from the Tower of London, yes? Some big bird of some description.
Correct.
And it wants you in particular dead.
Probably, yes.
He points the head of the cane at you. Later this evening, you are going to come with me. And we're going to lay a trap for this giant fucking pigeon. And then when I am done peeling the wings off of this beast, you can take it back to my lovely Thorne.
I see we had the same idea.
And I'll even let you claim that you accomplished it by some means. You better think of a good lie. However, holy man, now I'm upset. So here's what you are going to acknowledge. If you, under any circumstances, tell Ms. Rebecca about your dealings with me, I will expose you to the church and to Kindred. You'll have nowhere to run, and you will be hunted down and torn to pieces. And it will be by someone with far less remembrance of their humanity than I understood.
Of course, Mr. Jarnock.
Get up. It's not befit a holy man to be on the floor.
I look at him and I mutter something. I would not tell anyone. I care for Edmund's and Rebecca's opinion too much.
As any good ghoul should. He gestures to his over his shoulder with the cane. The man who's still holding the gun. Who, frankly, the look he's giving you is Charnock so much as hints to this guy to get you out of his sight. He might take that as a forever. That good old ghoul loyalty. Charnock, however, rests the head of the cane on your chest, rolling it back and forth in place. This beast is from the tower. He taps the cane against your chest. So we'll lure it to the King's Stairs Gardens on the south of the Thames.
Understood. I will meet you outside.
I'll stay near the water. I like watching the ships, and there's a beautiful pub there. You had best come before the evening gets too late, or it's not just the raven whose feathers are ruffled. Now, go about your business, holy man, and don't think that collar will save you. I was a Catholic, not Anglican. With that, he turns with a flap of his cape and re-enters into his carriage, shutting the door himself. The ghoul merely looks at you, blinks as though a little uncertain as to if he's supposed to say something, before giving you a polite bow before excusing himself.
Putting my top hat back on, probably one that has fallen off during the incident, I would give it a tip towards him.
Climbing back onto the carriage, the man utters a "Good night, Father," before motioning the horses to begin their clop. Sound of the hoof growing distant as they make their way down the street and around the left corner, heading south.
As Thomas would come in, Rebecca would be sitting on the sofa closer to the fireplace. The lights are on, providing a gentle, warm hue to the surrounding. The books having been meticulously, almost to an obsessive degree, ordered on the bookshelves, alphabetical order. You see this lovely bouquet of flowers on the piano in the far right corner of the room. Beautiful arrangement. And a small plate, most of the biscuits having eaten, left on the little coffee table in front of the chair. That is where Rebecca sits, one hand over the other in her lap as she simply waits.
Shaking the young man's hand, Mr. O'Connell would give him a tip of the top hat, and then proceed inside, where he would wait in the corner of the room to be addressed, holding a package under his left arm.
Rebecca gives an inclination of the head for him, motioning him to step into the room.
Walking in, Mr. O'Connell would have a bit of a stiff posture. You could say a bit of a limp as he set the package on the coffee table, it being no bigger than a shoebox wrapped up in perhaps old Christmas paper.
My dude, they didn't have Christmas paper then. They had
Newspaper, then.
Oh, they had wrapping paper. It was just much simpler and usually had like silk ribbons and such.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Looking over to him, she simply asks, "Is this what I requested?"
That and a bit more.
I take the box, setting it in my lap, and unwrap it, looking inside.
Inside would be 3 or so very old bones, the ones Thomas was able to pull from that grave. Thomas would have a seat and explain.
Rebecca would hold up a hand. "Mr. O'Connell, I did not say that you could sit. I want a full report on the task I had you perform."
Of course, he would gasp a bit as he explained. Well, it was very simple. I acquired some help and proceeded to the Tower of London's cemetery. I figured if we were looking for older bones, that was the best place to look. We proceeded inside one of the isolated mausoleums after I made my way around the guards, and then my men were killed, and I was forced to call upon external help. You see, inside that mausoleum, apparently, was a very angry wraith, and it was not exactly happy that I was currently rummaging about its nether regions. And so after I'd realized what it was, I was able to use what I had to dispatch it. Or at least banish it for a while.
Manipulation, subterfuge, night, perception, and empathy. You're not certain. Something about his story just doesn't line up. Out of character to explain, both of you have 4 successes. Effectively, you can't be certain he's lying, though something feels off. And Thomas, your lie, while not penetrated, isn't really holding much water.
Rebecca listens silently to what he says, at the end giving Thomas a long, hard stare, gaze unwavering, bearing down on him. All the while her bright silver eyes flow in mesmerizing swirls with an otherworldly fluidity. She then says, "Mr. O'Connell, I do hope you are telling me the truth," and I use dominate.
Thomas, you feel your own will, your own self, your very independent thought suddenly broken down as a sudden clear-headedness fills, an almost grounded feeling as you are hyper-aware, and out of your own control, you begin to tell the whole truth of what happened.
Most of it was true. It wasn't a wraith, it was a large, angry bird. It seemed to have slight control over the birds around it. I noticed it as I was entering, and then when I was at the grave itself, the birds seemed to stare at me and my party intently. They died horribly, might I add to you. They dropped their lantern. I take a breath, and I reached down to pick it up, and when I did, they were dead, and I was forced to grab what I could and run. I barricaded the door on my way out, but I'm sure it's very pissed.
I will say that the parts about you talking to it will be included. Just
I have to add those.
yeah, you
Okay.
like you are giving the whole truth. You have no control or will.
Okay.
But it's okay. We'll just say that you did that, and
I'll add that. Yeah, we'll add that in.
effectively, Rebecca knows as much as you know about everything that happened, including who those people were and whatnot. But, no.
Okay, because I was just about to ask, who did you go with? And are you telling me that this bird was stopped by a door?
Since I could add the whole. Never mind. We'll just say We'll just say I told her that part. The spirits. Me
Okay.
doing things.
Did you tell me what species of bird it was?
Would I know what species of bird it looked like?
Raven.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I would just say it looked like a large raven.
Yes, contrary to Charnock's insults, it is not a giant pigeon.
That would be so funny. Rebecca nods. She nods to what you say. She does not speak for what feels like a full minute before she breaks the silence, saying, "Is it too much of an inconvenience, Mr. O'Connell, for me to ask you to report to me?"
I look slightly confused. I did not think it was worth your time handling this trivial matter. I was going to lure the bird back to. I was going to have a few of the senior members of the Weeping Moon accompany me to deal with the bird.
It sounds like they are incapable of handling this matter from what you tell me.
The men that.
Why did you not tell me so immediately? I know it can be an awfully weary journey from your church all the way to my haven.
I nod my head and mutter. As I said, I considered it would be a trivial non-issue for you, and an annoyance at best. I was going to handle it myself, and the grunts that died they weren't exactly of my caliber or better. I figured if the higher ranks would be sufficient.
Common sense. You also weren't expecting the giant bird. Now you are.
We weren't expecting the bird. We weren't expecting anyone. It was an ambush. Now that we know it was coming, it would be easier to lay a trap and snare the beast. And then, perhaps, if you would be interested, I could bring it to you for uses, if you might have.
She looks at you. She then stands from her chair, not bracing her hand to push her up or leaning forward to stand. She expends no more effort to rise than absolutely necessary. It is a movement that is entirely kindred, as she simply says, "Follow me, Mr. O'Connell." She walks out of the room, down the hall, her boots clicking on the hardwood floors. She doesn't spare a glance to see that Thomas is following. She simply expects it. She then goes down to the kitchen.
Therein you can see Edna and James are speaking. Edna leaned back against the counter. James leaning forward, his forearms braced on it. Between them is a couple of sandwiches and cups of tea, as well as a quarter of the way full bottle of liquor. They both straighten and look to you immediately as you come in. James is the first one to speak, stepping forward. Is everything all right, miss?
Oh, yes, it's fine. She looks to Edna and she says, if you don't mind, before the hour becomes too late, I would like you to go into town for some rose bushes. I have a sudden fancy for rose bushes to be planted in the garden. And if you spy upon any shop fronts for dresses, make a note of any dresses with an exquisite burgundy colour. And I would like you to do this with no delay, if you please. Mr. Connell.
Yes, miss.
Would you mind accompanying her?
Of course. I'd be happy to. Should we take the carriage?
You may.
I'll be sure to leave a pair of my work shoes by the door, just so it doesn't seem the house is unattended.
She gives a nod. Thank you.
Edna bows low and very quickly speeds out of the room, almost as if she feels like she has to get out before she's in trouble. Whereas James takes his time to pick up what's left of his sandwich before quickly exiting the room, heading to get his coat and prepare the carriage.
As they leave, Rebecca doesn't turn to look at them or Thomas. Instead, she seems to stand there for a moment longer until she appears satisfied that they've left. Then she moves deeper into the room. She would stop between the countertop and table that I imagine would be in the center of the room. Rather large and sturdy table. She then finally turns to Thomas with a slight gesture for the hand of him to approach.
He would do so.
Kneel, Mr. O'Connell.
He would do so.
Rebecca reaches over and pulls out one of the knives in the kitchen. Large, rather hefty knife. She uses it to slit her wrist, though it doesn't bleed very much. And then proffers it to Thomas. Drink.
Thank you. I apologize for the deceit.
She simply looks down at him as he drinks of her blood. She only allows so much for him to take one mouthful's worth before pulling it away. Stand.
Standing up, he would feel a little bit more invigorated as he wipes his lips.
Now place your left hand on the table.
He would do so.
Rebecca quickly and swiftly would bring the blade down on his wrist to sever his hand.
The blade cleanly slices downward through his wrist and out the other side. Thomas, you cannot help but scream as what follows is a brief, singular, as though she's chopping a carrot as your hand is severed from your wrist, leaving a bleeding, aching stump that you can feel the pain of which locking up your arm and the stump hotly bleeding, your heart aching at the thought of this person who you feel so sorry for making them punish you this way. You feel both that you deserve it and heartbroken that they would abuse you like this.
The next time that you think to not immediately inform me of a threat, the next time that you think to lie to me, you will lose more than your hand. Is that understood, Mr. O'Connell?
Yes.
From now on, at the end of each night, you will report back to me all that you have done that day and what you plan to do the following day. And if I am pleased with what I hear, I may be willing to gift you with enough blood to heal that. If you go to Edmund for more blood, I will take your other hand. Do you understand me, Mr. O'Connell?
I give a nod and explain. Forgive me.
Never forget, Mr. O'Connell, you are a ghoul, and by the grace of my generosity, you are allowed to live with the powers that my blood bestows upon you. Don't make me regret my generosity.
Thomas, becoming a bit pale in the face, would give a weak nod as he looked to his hand.
She reaches into her pocket, pulling out Thomas's notebook that she had him leave with her the night before, tosses it onto the table. Tonight you will take this list that I've written for you in that notebook, and you will go to the Westminster and research all those topics, as well as looking into the death records that the Westminster might keep pertaining to a particular soul in Highgate.
I mutter something. You'll have to excuse the sloppy handwriting. That was my writing hand.
Mr. O'Connell, you do not speak unless spoken to.
Of course.
That will be all, Mr. O'Connell. Before you leave, see to it that this mess is cleaned up. As Rebecca leaves the room for Thomas to clean up after himself, getting to the stairs out of view of him, she just braces herself against the railing, closing her eyes and bringing a hand up to rub her temples before she just sighs and continues upward. It's best that he learns harsh lessons sooner than make an even more grave mistake that will cost me and my clan more.
The pub room is somewhat small, maybe 3-4 meter square. There is an oaken round table varnished to a much darker colour. 4 satin chairs around it with the usual eating utensils and plates and glasses, though void of serving things, as per, well, we're not really going to eat tonight, are we? The walls are decorated with floral wallpaper, the fireplace unlit, and the mantel decorated with small plates and a mirror above.
Alden is wearing his usual, some quite roughed up trousers, his black trench coat with his collar popped, as well as his usual top hat. There's nothing special about his appearance on this day.
Edmund is wearing a navy blue suit and matching trousers with pinstriped, lighter blue, though almost muted, like the grey of an early morning cloud. His hair styled back, not in its, truth be told, messy fop, but more respectably placed. He's wearing his red ascot with the jewel, which he is rarely seen without.
Rebecca is wearing a rather stylish, deep marine blue evening dress. She has removed her hat pin and hat to rest in her lap as she's seated at the table, allowing her elegantly styled curled golden locks to be more visible, as well as her silvery eyes. And she has indeed brought with her what is required for the ritual that Mr. Alden wants them to perform.
Would I be correct to assume that there aren't any other people?
It is only the three of us. I have asked for us not to be disturbed.
You can hear the general clatter downstairs in the pub of people drinking, chatting. You even hear a great mixture of people talking about things going on in the colonies, potential. Is it wise to put any money into this company? Should I look to investing here? And several people, mainly women, muttering about the Ripper. There is one man talking about it, but mostly complaining that the Ripper has ruined all his ability to have fun in the East End. You can imagine what kind. Apparently he used to know a whore there that could suck the Thames dry.
Love that.
Rebecca gives a nod to Mr. Alden. It should be fine for us to talk. Without fear of prying eyes or ears.
Alden would heighten his senses and join to take a seat, placing his top hat on the ground so that the bottom faces up. To not get it dirty, but also to be respectful.
Rebecca splays her hand out. So, Mr. Alden, you said you were attempting to acquire an item.
Alden would snap his fingers, almost in a performative way, giving it life, giving it charisma. He reaches deep inside his trenchcoat pocket, pulling out which he places in your hand.
Edmund, you recognize the distinctive moniker of followers of Set, yet you can also detect a distinctive smell of opium, and you recognize that herb. You've even brought some in, because some of the ladies of London like to burn it for that exotic smell, especially for when they have their little hoo-ha parties. Ooh, let's invite a crystal ball reader medium lady. It's fanciful nonsense, but it is an Egyptian herb, though the name eludes you. Whereas Rebecca, this is a depiction of the god Sutek, of which you could name a good bit of lore about, though that is on the mortal side of things. Alden, you as well can identify it. You've gotten all too familiar with this clan's shenanigans lately.
Looking it over as she holds it, she says, I think that should suffice. Then she readies the ritual.
Go ahead and proceed with the roll. Peering into the waters as the image begins to clear, you get a distinctive image of the man. He's leaned back at a desk. It seems to be that of a small office somewhere. Maybe in a house, or somewhere close to the city? It's hard to say. Nevertheless, before him are a couple of men showing him some papers that he holds and looks over at very much a leisurely stride. His finger pulling back the papers. He doesn't bother sitting up straight. He's practically leaned back into it. He lets the men leave without much issue, even handing back the papers they gave him, as he then begins to make a tally of the numbers that he saw.
After some time, Rebecca seems to lean back into her chair. It appeared that he was in a room at a desk, possibly an office, nearing the end of a conversation with a couple of men.
One would ask, there were two, correct?
She gives a nod. He was handling papers containing prescriptions for the sale and distribution of opium to 3 of the dens within Cyril's domain. I saw him write on a piece of paper of opium being sent to a factory in Deptford, detailing precautions of paying off the local street urchins. He also wrote on a separate piece of paper that was to be sent to the Karnak Import and Export Company, though no address was given. This contained information regarding sales, Cyril, and his addiction. It seemed as though this letter was a report to a higher up. Made brief mention of something of concern about how Ferguson was being reckless. He then called in an attendant. The letter about the factory in Deptford was to be, well, he said, for it to be left with the ladies. And the other one, he simply said to handle with care. This man seemed to be a mulatto, mixed race, black and English. Other than that, everything seemed rather uneventful and mundane, seeming to leave no trace of himself within that office and tossing unused paper in the bin. Seemed to be somewhere within the city of London, somewhere on Fish Street Hill. That is as much as I was able to gather. She looks to Edmund. Have you ever heard of this Karnak Import and Export Company?
It is a small company, located south of the Thames. I can't quite recall where. Smaller than mine, at least in shipping terms. Otherwise, I cannot say much more on the topic.
Well, it seems that might be where this letter will be handed off to his superior.
I can have my men stationed outside, or around the area.
No.
Actually, Edmund, wits and alertness. It suddenly dawns on you that factory used to belong to your father-in-law.
Hold a moment. That factory that you mentioned. I know who used to own it. I believe I know who still does.
The factory in Deptford or the import and export?
The one in Deptford. The textile mill, I believe?
And who might that be?
A man by the name of Mr. Cunningham.
Out of character, I wouldn't recognize... Would I recognize that?
I may have complained about him to you?
That's for certain.
Fair enough.
No.
So other than Edmund complaining about some Cunningham.
And that was years ago.
Okay, but do I know
No.
who that is? Okay. She pauses for a moment, furrowing her brow. Before she says, "That is troubling."
Indeed. I've had suspicions about that man.
What manner of suspicions?
Oh, the kindred kind, seeing as I should be the sole owner of that factory.
I will have the Karnak and factory watched. If the Lockmen were to do so, their association with you is well known. Tomorrow night, first thing, Mr. Alden and I will go to find out what is behind that secret room, and then later that night we will bring all to Mr. Cyril Masters.
Alden, at this moment, a smile kind of widens. You can tell it's a pure joy. He's not hiding anything.
Rebecca would then look to Alden. Did you manage to find anything on the whereabouts of Miss Cook?
He waves his hand in the air, saying, "Oh yes, it was no trouble. What I can say, though, is her location obviously is hard to disclose, considering she was taken away by some men. Well, and a woman as well. There were 6 of them, there being only one woman. The men all dressed in white, shaved heads. Meanwhile, the woman was dressed as a nurse would. They administered a shot to the woman, Miss Anne Cook, when she was shoved forcefully into a carriage. 3 of the men also had scars on their heads, old cuts and holes, which had been healed. Clearly, she was kidnapped."
Well, Rebecca, you're stumped. That sounds bizarre as hell, and you begin to wonder if maybe there isn't some other influence going on. Alden? Maybe a hospital staff? But Edmund? No. These are asylum workers you know all too well. And those scars? Likely the result of lobotomies.
Those men in white. They sound to me like lobotomized asylum workers.
What would lobotomized asylum workers want with Anne Cook?
I would pose the question, what would the person directing them want with Miss Cook?
OC, would I know any kind of asylums near the location where she was kidnapped?
Well, there's certainly one in the Whitechapel area. Seen over by there used to be one in the area. The site of it is now overseen by a Malkavian. I have a deep fascination with the fucking place. But other than that, there's a lot of asylums, especially of late.
Alden would once again wave his hand in the air, saying, "It would be hard to pinpoint from which asylum they came from."
Could it potentially be Dr. Timothy? He is the Malkavian Primogen, and thus would have, at the very least, some, he says with a wry smile, control over the comings and goings of the staff of the sanitarium. And given his interest in the Ripper cases and the fact that both he and Mr. Cyril Masters tend to be the good Lady Anne's problem solvers, perhaps he had something to do with this.
Certainly seems like it. Mr. Alden, and you are still kept up to date with the whereabouts of Miss Kelly?
Alden would nod. Same as always.
She gives a nod.
What else I can say, however, is that I've found something, perhaps, which you may thank me for, as I believe I've found some evidence of the Setites. Physical, by Danvers himself.
Oh.
Reaching back into the same inside trenchcoat pocket, he pulls out a sheet of paper which he shows to you. We may show it to Cyril Masters. And there's a Setite spoken of who we haven't run into just yet. This means there's more, clearly.
Glossop. Edmund turns to Rebecca, and then turns back to the paper and to Alden. The family name of the man who used to own that textile factory that we were talking about. His sole remaining heir would be his daughter, Patricia.
Rebecca looks at Edmund.
Alden at this point would take the paper back and put it into his pocket.
I believe it may be safe to say that this Miss Glossop is indeed a kindred.
Better yet than a kindred, a setite.
Rebecca gives a nod.
We can say for sure that not only can this incriminate him, but can link the known setites to each other so far. While with the higher-ups, that would take a bit more effort.
This needs to be approached with extreme caution.
Of course, as with the whole situation at hand.
Rebecca looks at Alden, saying, not only do we have 4 supposed setites within the city, she taps the paper. They have a mummy, a very dangerous breed.
Shame it is that you couldn't find any more with that trick.
Edmund raises his eyebrow at the mention of the word trick.
Yes, just getting back to it for a second, those 2 men you saw when you were looking into the bowl, they are indeed Mr. Danvers' retainers. Whether by blood or not, that's to be decided, but they are working under him as a retainer would.
Full of surprises today, Mr. Alden, aren't you?
He shrugs with a slight smile, only adding, they do essentially all the works for him. He simply overlooks them.
Out of character, would this be like that is enough proof?
It's certainly pretty fucking damning. And enough to make any Ventru caught with his pants down sweat.
Alden at this point would point to the pin he gave Rebecca for the trick, as he calls it, saying, considering that we have the paper plus one of his own belongings, I think we're set. Although it would be better to dig in a little bit deeper.
Edmund would give a at the use of the word set.
Alden would certainly see that reaction and smile.
What precisely do you want to dig into further?
Didn't you suggest it yourself?
Very well. So are we to wait at least until tomorrow night to present this?
Tomorrow night is the night where you wish to, with me, look into that secret room, correct?
Rebecca gives a nod.
Then I suppose so.
As you come to the park, expecting to find Charna, you are instead greeted by the smell of the Thames, the swaying of tree and rustle of leaves. There is a strangely sour smell emanating from some of the flowers growing along the pathway. Nocturnal flowers, though you can't quite place the names. They have a very soury smell until you really get close. Not exactly a good smelling flower, even if it is pretty. Some of them even smell vaguely sweet and sugary. Though you identify that one as not one wise to eat, as it's belladonna.
Slightly shaking, or maybe just his hands, a little tremor. He would reach into his coat pocket and pull out a cigar. Do I see anything out of the ordinary?
Wit and awareness. As you survey the area, there is a strange sense of being watched, the hairs rising on the back of your neck. And above you in the trees, you begin to distinctly hear there are ravens in the trees.
He would sit there silently. Now muttering to himself, I'm going to kill that bird.
As the ravens cruise, you hear the approach of a man as he stops on the other side of the walkway from you. He begins to look up, noting the birds, and then looking at you warily.
Do I recognize this man?
About as much as you recognize Jesus Christ.
Seems to be a murder of crows. He points up.
Ravens, I think. Mockingbirds. Can't you hear the laughter?
Yeah. I wonder what foul omen they're announcing.
You wouldn't happen to have another one of them cigarettes, would you?
Sure. Reaching into his coat pocket with his left hand still in his jacket. With his right hand, he would produce a cigarette and offer it to the man.
Taking it, he nods of thanks, popping it between his lips. And then he looks over your shoulder and you see the cigarette hang loosely in the corner of his mouth as he mutters, "The fuck is that?"
Somewhat perplexed, Thomas would raise an eyebrow.
Perception and awareness. This man's presence raises the hairs on the back of your neck. You feel a sudden rush of adrenaline going through your body. And more so, you know for a fact there is nothing behind you. The real danger is in front of you, and you can feel it palpably. This man has a skin of a human and the soul of a fucking killer.
I make a show of looking down at my foot to see if perhaps I had stepped in a dog tad. Is this man actively making any movements?
No. You can tell he's trying to get you to look away, though.
Can I take a step back? A long step back.
Common sense. Now would be the smart time to sick the bane on him.
Right. Raising my fingers up to my lips, I make a sharp whistle.
does seem to give the bastard pause as suddenly appearing visible, coming around the side of you as you hear a large of dirt scattering. The man, faster than you can really watch, moves back as though propelled by air. You can already see him quickly shifting into the dreaded form of the were-raven as the Bane spirit, though comical in some right, appears like the old fantasies of Spring-Heeled Jack, only this one with blazing red eyes and blood and a constant ickish stream oozing from his mouth and coating his fingers. The Bane spirit engages the were-raven at once. In a sudden gust of motion, with gunfire echoing from between the trees, the were-raven is pelted with bullets that seem to bounce off of his flesh from behind, as coming around through the trees with a sword in hand, Charnock swings, slashing at the raven, giving it a fierce cut along one arm. Before the beast can fully turn, he sweeps it up, catching it on the other arm, and then sweeping for the neck, which it manages to narrowly avoid. You can see Charnock's eyes now gleam a glowing red, just as the Bane Spirit's does. The were-raven bats back Charnock as it slashes the chest of the Bane, a blackish blood spewing out, though the creature, unaffected, continues to slash and gorge at the raven, opening a mouth filled with vermin fangs trying to bite it. It manages to sink its teeth into its shoulder, only for the raven to throw it off, sending it smashing against one of the trees, a branch shaking loose and falling. Your turn.
Grabbing his cane, Thomas would, I guess, he would take the pointy end and poke at the raven, intending to jab it in the chest.
Strength and brawl. As you thwack it against the chest, but the raven ignores you entirely to engage Charnock. You don't know whether or not you should be relieved or offended. Nevertheless, a couple of more gunshots ring out, doing nothing to the raven, as you can see Charnock's man slowly emerging from the trees, now dropping his revolver as he pulls a hunting knife and starts to run at the creature's back. Charnock, thrusting forward the sword, drops it as he brings forward his left hand, now with these black wolfish claws. He gorges open the raven's gut. As it tries to thrust forward with its beak, he catches it and brings its neck to the side, pounding a fist across its face, and then wrenching its head upward so it looks up, pounds it in the throat. The Bane from behind the were-raven comes at its back, biting onto it and breaking its claws over the raven's already wounded gut, pulling back the skin with an audible tear, as the other hand digs, trying to pull out exposed organs. The raven, bucking its back, rattles free the Bane Spirit, of which it snatches by the leg and throws in your direction. You might want to Death and Athletics, common sense, or otherwise you're going to get battered with a spirit. Just narrowly, you manage to avoid the Bane as it is flung across the pathway overhead. It then wrenches Charnock up, smashing him against the tree before gorging open the side of his face with claws and then biting into his shoulder with its beak. Your turn.
Is there anything I can use to attack this creature?
Well, a branch fell, and Charnock's sword is on the floor.
Okay. Looking to that sword. I will pick it up, and I will slash at the creature's left arm.
Dex and melee. Sweeping the blade, you cut along the raven's arm, making its body flinch. The ghoul then immediately to your side plunges his knife into the raven's gut before it smacks him away across the field almost, sending him hurtling 10 feet away. Flinging out its other arm, it sends a flurry of its feathers like shuriken through the air, or kunai, burying themselves in the Bane spirit, which writhes and cries out, and a gasping "Ah!" before it bursts into a bubble of black ichorish blood. Charnock, standing, clasps the raven's arms and wrenches them back. Behind its back, you can hear the cartilage breaking as he does so. As the creature pulls back its head to peck at him, he headbutts its beak downward. You hear an audible crack as the tip is broken. He then smashes the side of its head and, grabbing one of its arms, wrenches it off like pulling feathers off of a chicken. As the creature falls to one hand and its knees, Charnock grabs the back of its head and slams it to the ground, beginning to beat on it violently in rapid succession. You don't even hear, you just hear the wet plap as each fist falls. Plap, 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 plap. You want to get in a last smack there, or are you just going to back up and go, okay, you got this?
Oh, hell no. Thomas has his own aggression he has to take out there. Thomas, without missing a beat, will go to the opposite side of the creature and start repeatedly thwapping it with his cane.
Strength and brawl. Well, you thwap it right across the back of the head. Your cane now bearing a red glimmer of blood on the tip, almost like a ruby catching the light. It tries to rise, only for Charnock to put a foot on its back. Leaning down, he holds the back of his head, pressing it into the dirt, and mutters violently. Pigeons like you belong right. Before wrenching its head back, and then wrenching again as his foot in the center of its back, while pulling, acts as a holding point, as you hear a loud crack as it falls limp and spasming.